Pressure's mounting on the Morrison government to speed up the rollout of its COVID vaccines in the disability care sector after it was revealed less than 5% of residents have been vaccinated. As Health Minister Greg Hunt confirmed yesterday, just 99 only residents had received the jab. A special hearing of the Disability Royal Commission heard the vaccine rollout to disabled Australians has been an abject failure. To discuss this and more, I'm joined by my Tuesday panel from Brisbane, former Queensland Premier Campbell Newman, and from Cessnock, beautiful Cessnock in New South Wales, one of Labor's most popular backbenchers, should be on the front bench, Joel Fitzgibbon. All right, Joel, we've dropped the renegade. We're just going to call you popular because you are. Let's go to you first on this issue. 3 months into this rollout, those statistics on people with a disability, aged care recipients and others, pretty terrible numbers, aren't they?
Yes, they are awful numbers, Peter. But should we be surprised? I mean, everything the government's touched, whether it be on quarantine or vaccination, has been something just short of a disaster. And of course, I saw the official explaining this away by saying we decided that people in aged care facilities should be the first priority, but they're not getting the rate of vaccination any of us hoped and anticipated. I have a mother-in-law in a facility who hasn't been vaccinated, so that's no excuse whatsoever. We haven't established enough vaccine sources, and we haven't put the resources to this thing that is necessary to get us on track for broad-scale vaccination in quick time. We are well behind the rest of the world, and many people will be looking at this tonight and saying, really, people with disability, you could not have at least given them priority? It's just crazy.
Yeah, they're our most vulnerable. I will pull you up, though. I don't think the federal government's done anything poor in terms of quarantine. I think it's been the state governments and the quarantine debacles we've had there. But Campbell, I'll bring you in.
No.
All of this talk, and business leaders and others wanting these borders open. We saw a poll yesterday, 73% of Australians saying keep them shut until we're all vaccinated. PM today was offering a bit of a ray of hope on domestic travel, saying that if you're vaccinated, you should be able to get through any snap border closures. That'll all come down, of course, to these premiers. It's hard to see the PM wanting to open it up. Pressure from premiers, though, to get the country moving, get the door open. I've got to ask you, Campbell, you've run a state. I don't understand, if our most vulnerable are our older Australians, why on earth, and there's vaccine hesitancy, which we know, why on earth aren't we saying to them, you know what, you have a choice, AZ or Pfizer, just get them vaccinated. The young people who haven't got any of the complications, we've got more Pfizer coming in October, surely they can wait, Campbell.
Gee, Peter, there's a huge amount in what you just put to me. Look, I think a choice would be great, but obviously the challenge there, I think, would be that they don't have sufficient stocks. I mean, people are hanging back. There's no doubt about it now. For what it's worth, I'm getting my AstraZeneca vaccination this time next week, so I'll be happy to report back. And my wife's already had hers because she's a registered nurse. But we need to encourage people to get the shot, period. And I'm afraid over the last sort of probably 6 or 7 weeks, the signals have been awfully mixed. I mean, there is, well, until the PM started to talk the way that you just said, which was very heartening, what was the incentive? Why go and get a shot where I do know people who've been a bit ill afterwards, but why get a shot if you're still going to be required to quarantine for 14 days? That then means people are really thinking long and hard about whether they'll do a business trip or do a holiday. Will there be a case? Will the Premier of South Australia shut things down? They have to actually do what the PM said. That is very, very sensible. As to the international border, look, the PM's always been playing this according to the sentiment out there. He was dead right that there is no appetite to do that. But again, the business leaders who are out there now talking about the need to open up, well, they're right to get the debate going, because we cannot continue in the long term like this. We have to get, tourism, international education, the ability to see loved ones, all that going again. And we've got to get vaccinated, obviously, to facilitate that. So there's really got to be a push on.
Yeah, I have to say again though, if they're starting to vaccinate those under the age of 50, and we've got all of these vulnerable older people, aged care recipients, people with a disability, I think it just doesn't make sense to leave them without any choice. I think a choice in vaccine is incredibly important to getting those numbers up in terms of vaccinations. Let's go to the US, Joel. This pipeline issue in the US, where the energy sector has been crippled on the East Coast, reports are that there was a ransom paid by the owners of the pipeline to a Russian crime group. Now, this, I think, is extraordinary because it goes against the grain, likely to incentivise more of these sorts of attacks. An Australian bloke, Shane Bell, is a partner in a restructuring firm, McGrath-Nicol. He says that the corporates in Australia need to actively consider also paying ransoms if there are cyber attacks. Isn't this just going to grow the market in extortion? Surely there's a better way.
Yeah, I was surprised by those comments, Peter. I look forward to speaking with a few CEOs later this week to see what they are thinking and what sort of conversation they are having with their boards and through them, their shareholders. I mean, at the national security level, most countries, Western countries, have a very deliberate policy, never pay a ransom, because as you said, you're only going to encourage more acts of kidnap. So I would have thought that default position here for business too would be never to pay these ransoms, but these threats can wreak havoc on these companies too. And I think there'll be a role for government here. I mean, the extreme role would be to outlaw the paying of a ransom. I don't think that will happen, nor do I necessarily think it should happen. But I think that the national security agencies within government will have a key role to play in discussion with these companies to determine what is the best strategy going forward. It's a very complex one.
All right, Campbell, I'm going to pick your brains as a local man on the ground in Queensland, because the next federal election will be won or lost in your home state. Anthony Albanese has been up there in this post-budget runaround, targeting Flynn and Leichhardt, two key seats. Flynn, of course, has got a retiring member. He's taken a whack at the federal government for knocking back a request for funding for a North Queensland wind farm. Lots of high-vis, all of those sorts of pictures you'd expect on this side of the campaign trail. He's still a bit weak on going to a coal mine, I might add. How's it playing out in Queensland?
Well, you'd get the sense that the election campaign has well and truly started, Peter, what with these visits and the media and the promises and also advertising on TV that we're seeing. I think that Anthony Albanese really needs to put a real line in the sand that he absolutely supports coal if he's to be successful, particularly in regional Queensland. And it does look a bit iffy at this stage. I mean, a wind farm, 250 jobs only during construction. How many during the operation of 25 years? Not so many, I would venture to suggest. You know, so he really does have an opportunity though, if he's got the guts to actually go and confront the issue and say, right, well, what we did in the last few years was wrong. We're totally behind coal. Well, then I think he could get somewhere. But at the moment, it's a very sort of two bob each way sort of sense that I'm getting out of it.
I know it's a state by-election, Joel Fitzgibbon, but you're a very big presence in Hunter. You're seen as someone who's holding up the end of fossil fuels and coal and being supportive of the workers. I'm interested, very tight contest for the weekend between the Nationals candidate and your candidate, Jeff Drayton. It's neck and neck. If they get over the line, is it more Joel Fitzgibbon's influence than Jodie McKay, and will it make her job safe?
Well, certainly, you know, Labor's made its position on coal mining very clear right throughout the campaign. We selected a very good candidate who is not only a coal miner, but a coal mining union official and well known within the coal mining industry. And Jodie McKay has been very consistent in her message, and that is that she solidly supports the coal mining industry and is promising to send more coal royalties back to the region. You can only get royalties if you've got ongoing coal mining. So she's been very strong, and I'm very pleased about that. I hope this is a real turning point for the Labor Party. At our recent national conference, of course, we wrote into the Constitution support for both the coal and oil and gas sectors. So I think we've been very clear about that, and there should be no longer any doubt about our support for coal mining. Can I just say on the NAIF, Keith used veto powers, but we all have to be consistent here. If we're going to say the minister should not intervene and we follow the independent board, we should do that on every occasion. And we should do that, Peter, if they seek to, for example, invest in infrastructure around the Beetaloo Basin gas project.
All right, we'll stay there and keep on that as well. We'll see what happens whether Joni McKay, if they lose, she out. That'll be the question. Campbell Newman, Joel Fitzgibbon, thank you for your time.
A great pleasure.
Peter.